I have 6 p.m. here.
I agree. Good evening, everyone. We'll welcome everyone to our April 22nd, 2025 Virtual Town Council Workshop. Um, we've got a packed agenda tonight. We have Kimberly Horn and Wade Trim. Kimberly Horn's going to be presenting on the Windermere Waste Study. And then Brad and Chris will present from Wade Trim on our town town hall charrette, which we had a really good participation in. So with that, we will go ahead. Just a reminder that tonight is not a voting meeting. This is for informational purposes and for synthesizing all of that information, so we can utilize that information as we move forward at our regularly scheduled town council meetings. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Briar and Mike, and we'll let you guys get started.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And before Briar gets started with the technical information, I'll just do a really quick overview. So the town of Windermere received a grant to fund this study to better understand what a project would look like. And as usual, the town is being proactive to try to stay ahead of future problems. When it comes to your lakes, it's typically a matter of time before the lakes become inventoried and ranked in terms of their water quality. And when that happens, there could be additional regulations that could be put in place. Also, if a septic tank were to fail, you'd be required to replace that septic tank with a new and better performing tank, which new, better performing also has a high price tag. So those can typically run somewhere around $10,000 per home to replace the septic tank. So to get out in front of that, the town applied for and was successful in receiving a grant to fund this conceptual feasibility study that lays out the feasible concept design so that you can better understand what the costs would be to convert those septic tanks to the existing system. It would be an Orange County utility, and understand what those costs are, what it would look like, what that interaction and coordination would be. And that's what we're going to present to you today. So off to you, Briar, and we will take around 10 minutes to kind of walk through this. And then we'll end with sort of a cost per unit or cost per house that really gets you to have a decent understanding of sort of what this would take.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Briar from Kimberly Horn, and I'll kick off the presentation now. So this is the Windermere wastewater study. Let's see here. We'll be describing the collection system components, the steps for converting from individual septic tanks to centralized sewer, showing a preliminary utility map, a recommended phasing map, a lift station exhibit, a low pressure map with some low pressure information, the benefits to connecting to centralized sewer, and go over some costs associated with it. So the sewer collection system is made up of gravity systems, which are individual gravity mains and manholes, grinder systems, also known as low pressure systems, to help pump the flow over hills, and lift stations to send the flow to the wastewater treatment plant for further treatment. Now the conversion steps will look like abandoning the individual septic tanks, connecting to the centralized sewer, installing lift stations throughout the town to pump the flow ultimately to Orange County Utilities' existing wastewater treatment plant for further treatment. This is a preliminary map that shows here in orange. These are the preliminary lift station locations. And to convert the entire town from individual septic tanks to centralized sewer, we're recommending 13 lift stations. Now, this isn't brand new to Windermere. You can see these these gray squares are already existing lift stations in the town of Windermere. specifically the Estancia neighborhood and the Islesworth neighborhood, which are already owned and maintained by Orange County Utilities. You might have passed by them before and not even noticed because they're very heavily landscaped and hidden. Here you can also see there's also an existing dry line of gravity main already installed in downtown Windermere, these black lines here. So this would be utilized with this project. There's also approximately would need to be installed 90,000 linear feet of gravity main, which are these green lines throughout the town of manholes and sewer line. The red lines represent low pressure systems. These are needed on the low elevations, typically the lakeside properties to be able that are downhill to be able to help pump the flow over a hill to the gravity system that can then go to the lift station. This yellow line represents a transmission main on Chase Road that would send the flow from the entire town down Chase to the south to an existing Orange County Utilities force main that would then ultimately send it to the wastewater treatment plant. This is a recommended phasing map to break the project into 6 individual projects to be more economically feasible and for constructability wise. We need to install the southernmost portion first, which involves a lift station, gravity main, the entire transmission main, some low pressure systems, and the collection force main to be able to connect to Chase Road and the Orange County Utilities existing system that then the following projects would flow into, and so on. This is a lift station exhibit to give a better idea of what a lift station would look like, and one of the recommended locations was at the park on Park Ave. This is already land owned by the town of Windermere. You can see it's furthest away from the community center and the back corner parking lot. This would involve having the sewer mains send the flow by manholes and gravity to the wet well. A below grade wet well and below grade pumps would then pump the flow through a force main to the next gravity system further out of town. You can see it would entail a 45 by 35 foot tract fenced in area with a driveway for accessibility and also a water service for cleaning purposes. This is a low pressure map I mentioned earlier, also known as a grinder system. Since the pumps are such low flow, they're grinder pumps. You can see here, as I said before, these are for low lying properties. A total of 64 would possibly be needed to convert the entire town to centralized sewer. These low pressure areas and low lying elevations were found by using LiDAR data and GIS. Were found to be needed at East Boulevard, West 2nd Ave, East 5th Ave, Pine Street, Bayshore Drive, Down Yonder Lane, and Wonder Lane. Some more information on the low pressure systems, also referred to as grinder pumps. Like I said before, these are needed to go pump the flow over a hill. They're typically about a size of a manhole, a small storage tank with a below grade pump that pumps the flow to the closest available manhole. These are also needed if there are no areas for lift stations to be able to pump the flow. Some more pictures that better describe what they can look like. You can see here it just looks like a manhole that can be installed either on town right-of-way property or on the residence property if desired to be able to be hidden, and landscaping can also include decorative covers that can also be hidden in landscaping. Now, the benefits to connecting to centralized sewer include improving the drinking water quality, improving the lake's water quality. The current existing septic tanks contribute approximately 15,950 pounds of total nitrogen to the Butler chains of lakes annually. And when connecting to centralized sewer, this will reduce the pollution by 93%. We've all seen those green, ugly lakes that have too much nitrogen, and that's what the nutrients putting too much nitrogen can do to the lakes. And as Mike mentioned before, FDEP is pushing Florida and municipalities to convert to centralized sewer to improve Florida's water quality. Another perk of converting to centralized sewer is Orange County Utilities will maintain the sewer system. So you no longer have to worry about getting your septic tanks pumped, replacing them if they fail, or if FDEP comes with restrictions, having to replace with an upgraded system, which can be thousands of dollars, as Mike mentioned. And this can also improve the lake's water quality for fish in the lakes as well. And in the town of Windermere, there are also a lot of wells, so improving the drinking water quality is a big plus. Now I'm going to pass it on to my partner, Alan Gary, who's a technical expert in septic to sewer, to explain the overall costs and grants.
Thanks, Briar. Happy to be here with you all tonight. So my objective in these next 4 slides is to explain the costs of the project to you, but also explain how those costs are not directly borne in their entirety by the town. And that's an important distinction to make. The slide that you see in front of you has a lot of information on it. And what we're trying to convey here is the 6 different phases that Briar talked about before are shown here in sequential order. They each have a varying number of septic tanks in them, but the number of septic tanks in them is proportional to what would constitute a good septic to sewer project. And we've incorporated the costs for not just the collection system in these cost estimates that you see, but also the private property costs that might be incurred to run the sewer lateral from the house to the collection system and abandon the septic tank. So these are all inclusive costs. And on top of that, we do include a 30% contingency because of the variability in the market that we've seen and the fact that we're probably several years out from designing and constructing these. We wanted to include a buffer. So phase 1 has a $16 million cost. We've got 13 million for phase 2, 11 million for phase 3. 4 is close to number 1 with 16 million. Phase 5 with the largest number of septic tanks, or I'm sorry, phase 5 has a $19 million cost. It is more expensive than phase 6, which has the largest number of septic tanks due to some of the difficulties with installation and the lift station locations. The total projected cost is 92 million, almost 93 million. Please don't start to do the math where you're dividing the number of septic tanks into that total cost. That's not the burden that the township will share. Next slide, please. There we go. My experience and our firm's experience with these projects is overwhelmingly the vast majority of them receive something along the lines of an 80% grant funded proportion and a 20% being paid by the township. The grants have been really prioritized by the state and the federal government to push clean water. Recently, Florida passed the Clean Water Act. Army Corps contributes a lot of funding. There are federal clean water dollars available through the SRF program. And the Federal Clean Water Act also has some opportunities. Now that last one under the Federal Clean Water Act, that Section 319 grant program, is one I want you to keep in your mind. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more on the last slide. But the point that we're trying to make here is there are a lot of funding opportunities available to you. And I'd say the fact that your study got grant funded, in my experience, when studies are funded, it's a good indication that they'd be willing to fund the design and construction, the next phases of a particular project. This is an important water quality project, and I think the town has shown that it's proactive in trying to prevent nutrient pollutants to the water bodies. Next slide. So this slide is just meant to give you a sense of the dollar values that have been awarded to past cities and counties for similar type projects, septic to sewer projects like this. And this is just through the FDEP wastewater grant program. Cape Coral, Tallahassee, and this is just a few. There's many others that we've gotten similar dollars for. Timing of the grant application is a factor in how much you might get. With a project like yours, like this, where we have 6 separate projects that can be broken up and phased properly, you're really looking at a septic to sewer program. And that can be funded through a multi-year grant. Several of those grant agencies that I mentioned offer multi-year grant funding. So you only have to apply once. You get approved as a multi-year grant funded entity. And then that grant is there and available for all 6 projects. Next slide. The last bit that I wanted to talk to you about is the grant funds that pay for the construction of the collection system. The last portion is, what are those resident fees? So the connection fees that you see here are related to the fees that any individual would pay when they connect into a sewer system. It's the cost of that the Orange County utilities will charge to just make the connection to the system. Other costs that a resident might incur are, like what I mentioned before, that we included in our cost estimate, are the construction costs on their private property to connect the house to the collection system and abandon the septic tank. With our typical projects that we've seen, those costs usually run a total for the connection fees and the on-site costs of about $6,000. What we budgeted is for 10. Again, we're overestimating a little bit at this stage just for market variability. Now, you remember that 319 grant that I said to remember. That particular grant is specific for covering these types of costs, the types that residents would pay. It doesn't pay for the collection system. That 319 grant will pay for the on-property costs. I've got several projects that I'm working on right now where we've been able to take advantage of that grant, and the residents actually had no out-of-pocket costs. But like I said, the average for across the board that we've seen is about $6,000 in total that a resident might see. Next slide. With that, we'll take questions.
I believe we have Joe that raised his hand.
I'm sorry, I can't see. Joe?
Joe T. All right, we'll move on to Tom Stroop. Tom.
Hey, sorry, this is Joe. I think you finally allowed me to get off of mute, so thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick question, a couple of quick questions. I mean, I know we're sort of very preliminary on this, but do the figures that you've shown require all existing septic tanks to be converted to sewer? Is that a mandatory thing? My septic is less than 5 years old, so curious about that.
I mean, I can answer that. Our intent is not to punish people that have new septic tanks, but the Department of Health will not issue a new permit for a septic tank when sewer is readily available.
So it sounds like when my septic tank is, it's been depleted after multiple decades or whatever, then I would have to attach, but not mandatorily at the beginning of this. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the second thing is, what about the timing of, I mean, I know it's again preliminary, but I know we've also have the drainage project, and there was initially some water that was originally going down our street so would the timing be consistent with water, or would the timing be consistent with the drainage projects, or do we know?
It's dependent on like funding. I mean, our intent would be to do everything at once, but with the cost that this is, it's going to be hard to accomplish that. Finish your question, or Joe, you still there? Councilmember Stroop?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else had the same problem or not, but we can't unmute ourselves on our
Yeah,
end.
I think you just hit it. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. I know this whole thing is very preliminary, but just to get some stuff out in the open from the beginning, I want to ask a couple questions. And I think this goes to Mike. On the phases there, if say for instance we do phase 1 and we're done with that, can that phase start operation, or does it have to wait till the next phase is done? I know you start from the south end. Is that why you're starting from the south end, so you can hook right up to the lift station from the beginning and just add them on as you go, or what?
Yeah, this is Briar Brogna. I can take
Oh.
this one.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the exact reason why we need to start from the south. Once the south can be online, right, when it's constructed, and then project 2 can come online once that area is constructed. And then, for example, project 3 can't come online until project 1 and 2 is constructed.
Okay,
So that is correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, can we get a real live photo of what a lift station looks like? Because you said it was 45 by 35. Is that the size of the lift station?
Yes, that's correct. 35 by 45 fenced in area.
And yeah, we
Yeah,
can
so-
certainly get you some photos of existing lift stations. I'm not sure that we'll be able to pull them up right now, but
Yeah.
we can definitely send those to you separately.
Yeah, that'd be great, because that's substantial, as you know. And I think people are going to care about that, especially if it's in front of their house. So that'd be great. So thank you very much for everything else.
Thanks, Tom. Good questions, Ben. Brandy.
Yeah, so to follow up on something that Tom just said, so if they're 45 foot by 35 foot, these ones at Estancia and the other ones that are located on the map in town, those are ones that anybody can drive by and see. Is that correct? I haven't actually been in Estancia.
Yeah, this is Briar Brogna. I can take that one again. You can drive by and see those. They are fenced in, but you can go right up to the fence.
Okay. My
Right,
other
thank-
question, go ahead.
No, Brandy, I apologize. You go.
Okay. My other question was, I had a resident that couldn't be on the meeting tonight, and they're in the low-lying area on East Boulevard. And so they had asked, with these individual, I forget what you were calling them, grinding stations or whatever that are at the individual properties, it says that Duke Energy, the residents would have to pay Duke Energy the additional charges for the electricity. Is that correct?
Yes, this is Briar Brogna again. I can start off answering that question. That is correct. There are little electrical boxes that require minimal energy. The cost is very, very low. I don't know if Nicole or Alan can expand on that more.
I think if we can unmute Nicole.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Yep, Briar's correct. Those fees would be put on the homeowner, because they'll be responsible for the that private grinder lift station on their property. I don't have costs firsthand, but we can certainly get that to you. It's pretty common. Many municipalities have the individual low pressure systems, and it's not a huge burden. So we can follow back up with some individual costs.
Okay, and then my other question would be then if you guys said it could be in the right of way or in the person's property. So if something fails with it or something goes wrong with it, who's responsible for repairing it?
So the lift stations that are going to be within the right of way, those will be designed to Orange County utilities standards, and those will be owned and operated and maintained by Orange County. So anything that could go wrong, they would be responsible for, and they would come out and take care of that.
So even the smaller ones that we're talking about in the low-lying areas?
Yes, that's correct. So I know in many municipalities, they'll just have, backup parts, anything that needs to come out there. So it's not a responsibility of the resident to go out and fix the pump or deal with a sewer backup or something. Those will be taken care of by Orange County Utilities.
Okay, and could you guys go back to the map that shows where the existing ones are? Because I know there's one at my daughter's elementary school in town. Is that not part of the Orange County utility system? There's one in the parking lot, and I didn't see it on there.
It's not, Brandy.
Okay. Is it similar in size, do you know, Mayor, to what they're proposing?
If my memory serves me correctly, that is a different type of processing. Like they basically have like a large, like a large pumping station for their own septic. I don't believe that is a lift station per se. I could be wrong, but I think that's my memory.
Yeah, I'd be curious because I've had a lot of people, when everyone stands at the school for walker pickups, it's near there. And we had situations at the school where it's failed and there was, let's just call it debris across the yard and the sidewalk. And it's also very, very loud. So I've had a lot of people asking me, are these lift stations going to be as loud as at that one that's at the elementary school? So that would be something I guess people would want to know, like, is there DBA ratings on this? Like you can buy a dishwasher that way. So is there something that says how loud these lift stations are that have specs?
Yeah, lift stations aren't usually loud. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, so
the
the
one
one
at the school is wild loud.
The only thing I can think of would be like any backup power, like if a generator had to be exercised or bypass pumping or something like a large structure that's outside the lift station itself. But regular operation, you shouldn't really see it or hear it or smell it or anything. It's kind of all underground and hidden.
Okay,
Yeah,
then maybe ours
Randy,
is something very different.
Just to clarify, Randy, I think that particular, like I said, that is a different type of system and not representative of any any modern lift station that we would be considering or have.
Okay.
So I have two quick things. That you just actually mentioned generator exercising. So do these lift stations have generator backup?
Briar, can you go back to the standard detail? I don't believe that we are recommending any backup or requiring backup power at these.
Typically with an emergency situation, that's one of the first ones they send generators to, and we work with the Orange County EOC.
Yeah, it's a lot of generators to get. Yeah, there are other ways to, you could use HMGP to mitigate those as well, potentially, but it is important that everyone does understand, though, that if you lose power and there is not a generator available to back that system up, you have a finite a finite time that you will have sewer, if at all. So it is something that, you know, we probably should discuss and know. I know it adds cost,
Mhm.
but it is something that we ought to discuss, just so everybody is, you know, aware. The other item, and I just want to do this for clarification purposes because I think there's some confusion potentially. Um, the so the lift stations are maintained by Orange County. Those grinder stations or machinators or whatever they are those are the responsibility of the property owner. Is that correct? Because that's the way I understood it. But I just want to clarify. I want to make sure everybody has the proper information.
And Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the lift stations would be maintained by Orange County. The only responsibility of the homeowner is that it's on their property and they would pay for the power and energy consumption of the smaller lift stations on property. Is that correct, Alan?
Yeah, the projects that I've worked on that have grinder stations, it is set up that way.
So E1s would be the responsibility of OUC
Yes.
Mhm.
on personal property.
Yeah, and the way that can be handled is through the granting of an access easement for the utility to access the grinder station. Or the grinder station can be located in the right of way in some instances.
Okay, good. Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. The ones that I had seen previously, they were the property owners had to take care of those and deal with them. So that's a plus for sure. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, the industry standards tried to move away from that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, Greg Anderson.
Hey, thank you very much for the presentation so far. It's very informative. I had a question for roads or streets where there's only one entrance and exits, like Second Avenue or my street down Court. How much disruption in time will there be when those roads have to be dug up for those pipes? Just trying to figure out, do people have to go on other people's yards to drive, or how does that work?
No, it wouldn't be driving on someone's yard. There would definitely be some interruption because, you know, some of this sanitary sewer piping and manholes may be, you know, up to 15 feet deep or so. But we can be strategic during design to make sure we only have one lane closed. You know, we'll have some significant MOT out there, but it won't be so disruptive as you have to literally get off of the road. So those are considerations that we will determined during design, but it would most likely be one lane is going to be closed, or, you know, obviously there'll be detours throughout the town as needed, but everything will still be open and accessible. In some cases, it'll probably only be, you know, local traffic, so we minimize any sort of excessive disruption in the area. That it will be inconvenient, but there won't be, you know, tearing up lawns or anything like that.
Thank you.
Greg, let me find the 90 million first.
I'm
just
being
putting it out there.
optimistic.
Greg already spent it.
Oh, that's tough.
Any additional questions on the sanitary sewer? All right, thank you guys for the
Okay, well,
presentation.
And Mayor, I did just have just a couple quick words
Sure.
to wrap it up. So next steps, all right, if you want to move forward, then the town would direct us to go ahead and send this to Orange County Utilities for approval. We have coordinated with them. Their system has plenty of capacity, so that would definitely be an appropriate process, but we're not concerned of what they would say. And that will end our current project. At that point, the town could apply for additional grants, both before and during the design phase, and the town would then need to move forward with a design phase to draw up the actual construction documents. As we've shown here, we've broken up a recommended phasing, and we went through the comments that you'd need to start in the south, but exactly how we break up the rest of the phasing, there are some options. We would just have to go in order of the connection, right? We can't have a gap in the connection. But that pretty much concludes what we're doing. And again, we would need the town council to accept our study in order for us to submit to Orange County Utilities, and then there'd be a break until more funding is obtained.
Councilperson Struth has an additional question.
Yeah, I guess since my hand's up, I might as well ask, even though Robert, I just texted him and asked him to answer me. But
Listen to this town meeting.
so I'm just
What's the hockey
roughly.
game?
I need to find a tablecloth and a baby pop-up.
Okay.
Is Bob there talking?
I don't know. Heard it.
Okay, well,
I think that's Greg, is that you?
no, it's Robert. The
No,
thing
not
is, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. The thing is, even though we talked about these grants that can pay for 80% of it, it's still competitive and it's still an option that we can try to go after. The SRF is mostly a loan that the town would have to take out. So even though it says 90 million, and when you take 20% of that, you're like, okay, well, it's somewhat feasible. There's still a lot of work that has to go into that. We have to acquire the lift station sites, do the design, and then make sure the capacity is available to the north and to the south.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I know there's a lot of logistics involved, but just so we're clear here, everybody, I'm sure that everybody understands that this is still a lot of cost. 20% of it, 92 million is still a lot of cost to the town. So it's not cost free in the long, in the big scheme of things.
Absolutely.
No,
It is
our-
not cost free. Great.
yeah, our typical budget is like maybe 7 to 8 million.
Yeah.
For everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Josh, I just want, because we get deep into these things sometimes, when I think sometimes we forget that. I just want to make sure that as we go into this, that's known right up front before we start, bumping heads over stuff we didn't already discuss.
And I think part of wanting to have this out there and available is that we can begin to plan, right? I mean, and there's a lot of planning, because what happens is when you've got something like this, and then maybe something happens to your septic system, maybe the way you repair it might be different than if you had no hope that you would ever be off of it. Because there's real cost with drain fields and things like that too. They're not inexpensive these days. So, there's a nexus there, but we're going to have to make sure we're able to get the funding. We're going to have to make sure that the governmental environment that is ever changing right at this moment still considers these types of funds a wise investment. We don't exactly know what that could potentially look like, so we're going to have to be astute with that and do our homework there. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but again, the first part of eating an elephant, I mean, we got to get there, and it could be 5 years, it could be 3 years, it could be 10 years, who knows.
No, I'm all in favor of the, like you said, doing a little bit at a time. I just want to make sure that when we go into this, we're realizing that it's not all just free.
It is definitely not free, and you are 100% right, Tom. Frank
Thank you.
Krentz,
Am I unmuted?
you're unmuted now.
Okay. So not sure who this question's directed to, but can anybody talk to what the potential impact would be to the dirt roads regarding location of manhole covers and other impact to trees? I guess there are other things that might be impacted as well, but those things in particular.
Once we get to the design phase, then we can take a look at those things, but I think we're far off from that.
There's also factors of
Is
where
that
we
speaking
decide.
on that meeting?
Child deduction day.
It's a what?
Child deduction day.
I can't find it.
That would be Eddie Gardner. He's not on mute.
Any additional, Frank, was that did you have additional questions, or is that your only question?
There are a few, I wouldn't call manhole covers, but there are a few access points in the dirt roads. And I know they're an impediment to the maintenance of the dirt roads. So seems to me, these things would have to go down the middle of the dirt road. So I would expect there to be a large number of manhole covers and a major impact to what Public Works does to maintain the dirt roads.
For wastewater?
Yes.
So with this, I can't answer specifically, but I think with this type of system that may be mitigated to some degree, but I would agree, there's always impact when you have the dirt roads. When we factor that in, it's always a bit of a compromise. And sometimes we choose the middle of the dirt road so we can avoid the trees. So yeah, I mean, you're right. There will be decisions along the way that we'll have to, in design, that we'll have to work through and factor in what's the best, and least destructive way to go.
Okay, thank you.
But this is probably for Mike or anybody else on KHA.
Mhm.
It's not a stormwater system. It is a wastewater system.
Right.
Yep.
So
that's correct.
can you elaborate on manhole covers and stuff like that?
Yeah, so typically we do design any gravity system, the collection system, and manholes in the middle of the road because they're not under pressure. Pressure pipes are going to be installed outside of the road in case there's a main break and so forth. So we've obviously been directed not to impact dirt roads. So the roads will just need to be stabilized for maintenance and access, but obviously getting fire trucks in the area, we don't anticipate any impacts to the dirt roads. For the manhole covers themselves, that's something that we'll look at, specifically during design, but we'll do our due diligence to make sure they're flush with the road and there's not, impact to the maintenance of the road. That's the only thing that you guys would see was the manhole cover and the top of the manhole that's flush with the road.
I
So
can offer some anecdotal
Mhm.
experience with this. The city of Denellen has about 4.5 miles of dirt road. And years back, we installed a gravity sewer system in that dirt road. The residents wanted to keep the dirt roads. And there are places we can place them strategically and things we can do to help stabilize the manholes and then augment the maintenance program like we did with Denellen to allow those dirt roads to still be maintainable and accessible with the manholes being located within them.
And am I correct that these manholes are going to be, they're not going to be a traditional, 24-inch or so manhole cover. They're smaller than that in diameter. Is that accurate?
No, I believe they would still be your standard size.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Always good to ask the questions. That way we try to get all of them.
Mhm.
Any additional questions? All right. Thank you, guys. We appreciate that and good presentation. With that, we will turn it over to Brad and Chris, right?
Yes, sir, Mayor. This is Brad and I have Chris with me. Let me share my screen. Share. And let's see here. See, there we go. There's my screen. All right. Well, thank you, Mayor and Town Council. Again, I'm Brad Cornelius with Wade Trim.
Brad, real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Can you start slideshow?
Oh, I didn't do that.
Upper left-hand corner.
Let's see, this will go to next. What is it?
Oh. This one. Okay.
There you go, Brad. Thank you.
Got it? All right, thank you. One day I'm gonna get this down. So thank you again, Mayor and Council. Again, I'm Brad Cornelius with Way Trim, and I have with me Chris Thompson, our landscape architect. And so, yeah, what we want to do with y'all this evening is give you our draft concept plan based on the town square charrette that we did back at the end of October, as well as information we received through an online survey that was open through most of November. And then we also had a meeting with the Long Range Planning Committee that also provided us some input into this concept plan. So first, I just want to remind everybody what our scope is in this project. So what our specific scope is for this project is to analyze the existing conditions and uses of town square. That's our first step. And what's important also for everybody to understand, and I know we talked about this at the charrette, what our project does not include is any changes or proposed changes to town hall. Our focus is on the town square park area and not on changes or adjustments to town hall, as that's a whole separate process and project. So that's important for everybody to understand that. Then the next step in our process was, as I said, the charrette, which many of you that are on here were at that meeting. So thank you for attending. So we did that. We also had the survey. And then again, like I said, met with the Long Range Planning Committee, and that gave us all our input. And then what we're going to present to you this evening is based on all that input we received, we developed now a draft concept plan for town square that we're looking for feedback to move forward with. Based on feedback we get tonight, we can still make adjustments to it because this is a draft. And then we'll present a final concept plan at a future town council meeting for consideration for final approval. Also, what's important though, again, to remember, similar to what you just heard from Kimberly Horn, this is a concept plan. This isn't engineered. There are, more work to be done for this project to move forward, but it does, I believe, give the town the direction and guidance to move forward with future work there in town square. As I said, we started with the site analysis. This was work that Chris did. I won't go over this, but as you can see, he looked at the existing uses that are there, the existing characteristics of the park and the surrounding area to give us our starting base. Then again, we had our charrette. We had 34 people sign in. I'm sure there was more than that there, but that's how many signed in to our charrette. And again, I really appreciate everybody participating in that meeting. And then we also had the online survey, which we started right after the charrette. And I believe it was open till mid-October or mid-November. And we did receive a total of 244 responses. Of those, 230 were from residents of the town. I will note here too, because we have all the data in the agenda item, all the responses, everything is in there. And you may see we got some goofy responses from some people. It's okay, because this data that we collected, it's not scientific, it's information that we use to develop a concept plan based on Chris's design professional background, as well as in you as town council to just have some reference for a decision that you all might want to make. But it's not directive and it's not a vote, but it's just it's information to be considered. As I said, in your agenda item, we have a whole summary report of all the information that was collected to the charrette and the survey within there. So that is available to anyone to take a look at as part of this agenda item. Just in summary, what we've heard out of there, we got a lot of feedback. And what we believe in terms of our analysis of it is that the biggest feedback we got was maintaining the open green space and the green area of this park, or of this town square area, and not bringing in heavy active recreational uses and things that would really kind of change the character of this facility. And I think we heard that loud and clear. We heard other things, we heard about I'll say it here, there's discussion about the bathroom. That was discussed, but again, overwhelmingly, and I think as you look through the analysis in the summary report, you'll see that is a very strong, consistent tie through our public involvement process. I'm going to turn it over now to Chris, and he's going to walk you through the concept plan that we put together.
All right. Thank you, Brad. On the concept plan, I'm going to go ahead, and this was the whole concept plan that we prepared and has all the elements on Town Square. And go to the next one. Starting at the top right, Brick Main coming off 6, we have planned for removable bollards to create a vehicular free zone on Brick Main, and it would go on both sides at 5th and 6th, just by the crosswalks, so that could be used similar to the way it is now with many events that happen, or for any events that happen in the future. The relocated 9/11 memorial is shown placed right there at the corner. It's a visible location, and it becomes a welcoming entry point to the town square. The main parking lot access has been relocated to 6th Avenue off of Brick Main, so that when Brick Main becomes a pedestrian-only zone, cars can still access the parking lot without any issue. If needed, there's an area at the north side of the parking lot for bike racks to be located, should they ever become a necessity to be at Town Square, a place for bike parking. Town Hall Plaza, right there in front of Town Hall, would be maintained in a current location and just have some expanded landscape areas, as well as widened walkways along the edge to provide more access into the heart of Town Square. Further over to the left, we've got a regulation basketball court to provide an improved area for the existing basketball recreation activities, as well as it could be striped with other elements for any additional activities that may want to happen on that court. Just nestled in the corner, the Cal Palmer Building and Garden. It would be maintained and planned for a future town opportunity, and a walkway behind the building would connect 5th to Brick Main. The rear door from Cal Palmer would provide access to the shade garden if needed, based on the use of the building. Down on the middle of the square, we've got a main walkway that goes all the way from 5th to 6th with new crosswalks on both ends, and that transects to provide easy access throughout the area. The proposed restrooms at Town Hall are situated right there adjacent to the parking area, and they're centrally located along the main walkway. Also along the main walkway is a grass lawn with a 440-foot walking loop. This provides a multi-use area for passive recreation opportunities, as well as day-to-day use as a lawn with sunny and shaded seating opportunities. This walkway would act as a connector to provide diagonal access from the library to the corner by Cal Palmer Building. Buffered from the main lawn and surrounding the residential community, a reinforced natural lawn area would provide space for small events. It could be an additional area for larger events, and it could also be a potential area for small vehicle or golf parking if needed. Some additional improved gravel parking is located just below that, and a mountable curb and removable bollards would provide a controlled vehicular access into this area that is the buffered multi-purpose reinforced lawn area. Between that and the library would be a dumpster enclosure. The dumpster station is designed for 2 full-size dumpsters, and they would be placed in an architecturally designed enclosure so that they fit the quaintness of Town Square and did not detract from anything or any of the improvements going on there. Additional gravel parking behind the public library for employees, as well as a loading zone, is shown on this plan. And also additional gravel parking for visitors, which is provided along 6th Avenue. You may notice there's a sidewalk connecting all of the town square around the entire perimeter, and this would make a complete loop, allowing for connections to any part outside of the square as your residents come to events or come to activities at the square. Aligned with the main walkway in front of the library would be a new library entrance experience, and it is centered on the drive aisle from the parking area, but also easily accessible from anywhere on the main walkway. And this is just an overall view again of the planned improvements in the conceptual master plan. And with that, I would like to open to any questions you may have.
Yep, Mayor and Robert, that's our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions or give you more information. Or get comments on changes you may want to see.
Thank you, Brad. If the town council can raise their hands, and I'll be more than happy to call you one by one.
Is only town council allowed to respond, Robert? It's Joan Foglia.
It's a town council workshop, so it's at the discretion of town council whether to include public comment.
That's perfect. So when does the community get their second chance at discussing any of these proposed improvements?
It would be whenever it comes in front of town council. But the workshops are meant for town council to discuss things amongst themselves, just to get a better understanding of what's going on.
Right, but the community should also have the opportunity to put more input other than just one charrette, right? And it is our community and our town square, correct? Or am I wrong?
Well, I
I'm just
totally understand. Yes, the charrette and the survey were the two opportunities for the public to provide their input. And this is a combination of their input. And so this is a time for the town council to discuss these things. So typically there's not public comment, but I'll leave that at the discretion of the mayor, but their time is very limited as far as when they can meet together. If this goes in front of a town council meeting, then there is more opportunity for the public to actually comment.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, got Tom.
Go at it.
Okay, great job, Chris and Brad. Love the bollards idea up there. Like to see more of that. That'll also stop a lot of the cut through traffic. I know it seems stupid, but people will go in one block and speed through just to make it to that circle faster. I like the memorial moving up there where it could be seen better. It's a great memorial. One thing I don't know, and you probably did include this, Chris or Brad, but over there where the basketball courts end going to the north, some sort of bushes or fence or something along there, because I have seen more than once that basketball come rolling out of there and go all the way into the street, and kids just chase the basketball. They don't even look for cars. So that's a high traffic area. So I don't know what you'd want to put there, but something to block that ball from going into the road there would be I think it'd be a great asset to, for safety reasons, obviously.
Yeah, and we do have a hedge shown there going all the way from the walkway connecting to 5th, all the way down to the main connecting.
Okay.
So we're showing a hedge with trees through it as well.
Perfect, thank you. And you read my mind about the dumpster. I just talked to Robert and Tanya about this yesterday. Robert kept it to himself, but yeah, putting that dumpster back further and covering that with something more architectural is a big plus for the residents on that street. And we really do appreciate that, because I'm one of those residences back there. I love the circle, the walking circle. Hadn't thought about that. I love the recreational field, soccer / field, whatever you're putting down there. I like you got some sunshine, some shade. I I like the new entrance to the library. I think that's been underrated for a long time. So now this parking down here where J is, you see where the J is in the lower right
Yes, sir.
corner? Is that current parking go that far down, or does it stop short of that now? I don't know, because we had a problem for a while there where they were parking all underneath that tree between J and 7 and literally up against the tree. So I just want to make sure that whatever you do there, that we continue to have those, either railing there or something to keep that parking up against those trees there whenever it gets done, said and done.
Yeah, and part of that curb, or excuse me, part of the sidewalk that's going around could be utilized as a sort of a drop curb sidewalk or a drop edge sidewalk where it's raised up to prevent parking in that area as well.
Okay, good. Because I know the residents on that street, you know, they kind of, I know that this is a great plan, by the way, great job. But they just, you know, these are people that do live there, and we want to give them the same consideration that we gave the people in Oakdale when they did such a great job over there with that development there, you know, low lighting and a wall and all that. So we just want to make sure this residential street stays residential. That's all.
Thank you, Tom. And one other thing, Tom, is we need to probably co-locate the dumpsters for the library and for
Yes, sir.
us.
Perfect.
Because where you have I right there, that is where the library has their dumpster.
Mhm.
So if you can co-locate everything into one area, that'd
Yes.
probably be best.
I think it looks fantastic. I'm sure I'm sure, I mean, it's a great job, Chris and Brad. Great job.
Thank you, sir.
Tony Babbitt.
Yeah, Brad, I just wanted to say that I absolutely love this. But with that being said, I would want to hear not just council speak on this. It doesn't look like there's a lot of council questions coming up, but I would like to get input from the town residents.
Thank you, sir.
Randy.
Well, I guess I'm going to be a bit of a naysayer on a few of the items. So overall, I mean, I like the parking lot moving. I've had people asking me about losing the little basketball court because it does have the lower hoops for the kids. I've had a lot of conversations with people about the additional parking. I am kind of curious why all the additional parking was added. When you look at the feedback we got in the survey, it was 92 people did not want additional parking and 8 people did. And I understand that's just the sampling of the survey we did, but it seems like, you know, that literally equates to 92% of the people who responded to the survey don't want additional parking. So I'm curious why that was even considered. In terms of the gravel, because it just said unpaved, so I wasn't sure what was going to be used. But for the gravel parking, we've already got complaints around from residents in town on the sand streets, which I just had a meeting with town staff about that a couple weeks ago regarding all the rocks getting into the sandy roads. And so I feel like that would potentially put more of that into the sand. I also think there's going to be major impacts to the trees. I mean, we're protecting that tree in the back on Forest Street side of the library, but we have big growth trees there that whole length. And literally over Easter weekend when I was there, I took a golf cart so that, you know, there would be more parking spaces and that it takes up less space. And when you pull up there between Q and O, where that parking is on 6th Avenue, the roots of those trees are already like becoming exposed. And they weren't like that 5 years ago, 8 years ago, because we've been allowing traffic to regularly park there. I've also gone around the block. I'm at the library a lot, like 4 or 5 times a week, actually. And I've gone around the block to see, like, during the daytime when the parking lot is full there, like, is anybody even parking over at the gravel parking lot by the brewery? And I'd say between the hours of like probably 1 or 2 o'clock and 5 to 6 o'clock, when a lot of families are utilizing the library, there's not actually, the parking lot's not actually full. Like, it's not even a tenth full. So instead of encouraging people to parking the parking lot that we built, we've been allowing them to park there. And there'll be even empty spots all along Brick Main. So I don't know that we really need the additional parking except for larger events. I also think it encourages traffic on Fifth Avenue and Forest Street to park there during events. And that's what we're trying to get away from for the impacts to those people with them over there. And I also have a question about what the reinforced lawn area means. Is that still going to be a soccer field? Or are we talking about artificial turf, real grass?
The natural grass lawn that's reinforced, of course, so that you would not damage it.
Reinforced how?
With a structural member below the natural turf.
So like some sort of matting like that they use under swales?
No, like a grid, like a vertical grid to distribute down to a permeable base.
Similar to like Fifth Avenue.
And this is a concept plan. So the area, it's conceptually planned as reinforced. It could just be a turf area. You know, if you don't feel like there's any need for protecting the grass, for bringing in, you know, if you're having events or vehicles, golf carts or a mass of that, then you wouldn't even need to reinforce it.
Okay, I think having events there is very, very close to those residents who were all very outspoken against the pavilion. So I think that's getting very close to the neighbors, but we can see what the residents from there have to say. The other thing is that, you know, with all the extra paving going across, like when you're at the parking lot at the library now, you get out of your car, it's all asphalt up to the sidewalk. It's perfectly fine as far as for handicapped people accessing it. I think the more sidewalks we add, I think there is going to be impacts to trees that people aren't aware of. And then I also have a question. Does the septic field for the new bathrooms, if it's in that location, is it going to be around location O? And will it have to be the new elevated advanced treatment system so that therefore the ground won't be level there anymore? Is that also part of the reason that the 9/11 memorial is getting moved?
No, and again, like I said, we did not assess or address anything related to the town hall or the town hall bathroom. The 9/11 relocation was, as Chris said, was to take it out of hiding back there by the library, put it up at that corner, especially with the patriotic horse right there now. It makes a really good focal point for coming into the center part of town and the focus part of town. It had nothing to do at all with the potential bathroom at town hall or the septic field.
Okay. Well, I mean, one of the things that a lot of the commenters said was that they want, you know, more tree canopy, more open space. I know we have, I think it's two or three little trees there that were planted as part of our Arbor Day in that corner where it's proposed to be located. And then we have you know, some of the trees here aren't actually exactly where they are. We've actually lost a couple trees and there's different ones that aren't on here. But so as far as the septic, I mean, I understand the bathrooms isn't part of the scope of what you had to look at, Brad, but you know, you are the zoning officer for the town. So it would require the advanced treatment system if we put new bathrooms in anywhere in Town Square, correct?
That call is by the Florida Health Department, not by the town of Windermere. So
Right.
ultimately,
But I'm saying that is what's required.
And can I address the parking real quick?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, so regardless of what we do, if we don't do anything, people will still park along 6th Avenue, along the tree roots, along this whole area that's over here. And if you guys see my marker, you can see it. So having identified areas where they can actually park that don't encroach tree roots or the tree canopy, that would probably be best, because a lot of times people just park next to the area where they're going to go. And I know the Orange County library system has a lot of reading classes during the day. So
The homeschool class and stuff.
yeah, it does get packed there. So the more that we have identified parking, the better.
Well, I mean, I had a feeling that that exact sentence would be said. I pretty much had predicted that one. And the reality is, we can prevent people parking there by putting a ranch style fence there, a split rail fence, just like we did on the north west corner there on Forest Street. And I mean, that's what we need to do to protect the trees. And I mean, I understand it gets packed there during the day. I see it too. But my point is, we do have a parking lot that's, you know, just on the other side that's not being utilized, because the gravel parking lot is never full when those classes are happening. There's homeschool that meets throughout the day, because my daughter used to attend some of those before she started regular school, and I'm still at the library throughout the day. So we have another parking lot that can be utilized. It's just not. And it's not, I mean, giving a designated area, yes, but the same exact argument can be made that we could just put the split rail fencing there and keep our trees, or we're just going to lose more of our canopy in the town square, because anywhere where we don't have trees, people avoid standing there. We have different town events. The mayor gets out there, he's speaking on things, and everyone has to gravitate towards the trees. So you're not going to not impact those trees if you allow cars to park there, whether you give them a designated spot or not. That's naive to think that they'll be able to survive that continuously.
So with all things, there is compromise. When we have a situation where many of the residents who live on Forest, who live on Butler, who live on 5th and on 6th have asked us not to have folks park in town right away, in order to accommodate that, when you're already 100 or plus parking spots behind where you should be, we need to always take those opportunities to get appropriate parking where we can. And that is just part of good planning. So
you guys aren't listening to the, sorry, go ahead, finish.
That is not accurate. I understand, you know, I want to pay no taxes too. So it's not about not listening. It is about making sure that what we do or what we plan for takes into consideration not only the town today, but the town tomorrow and the town the day after that. It's just good practice. We have parking issues there, and we have very carefully accommodated all those individuals where we could just park on the right of way, but we don't do that because we do listen to those neighbors. It's not because we don't listen to those neighbors. It's because we are. And that's why we need to take these opportunities where they are. If there are specific spots that are going to impact trees, we will address that. And also, just because there's not a tree there today doesn't mean we can't add trees in this. This is all part of that. So I mean, I don't want to look at it as half empty. You have to look at it as what can you do with this? What trees do you want to add? That's what we want to look at this as.
Did you guys, I mean, I don't, 92% of the people that responded don't want more parking.
But
so
Brandy,
we keep saying, I keep hearing at all these council meetings that you guys, everyone's listening to the residents and what the residents want. But we have, even for the people, there were people who wanted the soundstage, people who didn't want the soundstage. There were people who wanted the splash pad, didn't want the splash pad. But one of the most, there was two common threads of wants and don't wants. And the number one want was green space and tree canopy. And the number one don't want that actually was across the board was no additional parking. So I don't understand what the point of doing the survey was and having these charrettes and having feedback if we're not going to listen to the residents. And just not 5 minutes ago, we just finished our septic workshop, and residents actually spoke before council. And I'm sorry, but I think it was completely inappropriate, Robert, for you to tell residents that they wouldn't get to speak at the meeting.
Are we going to have a single council?
Let me finish. No, Tony, let me finish. Let me finish.
Stop it. Stop it now.
You need to let, hey, you guys always interrupt me. Let me finish.
Brandy, I had the floor. You took it from me.
You stopped talking. You did it to me earlier. If you want to make a list of every time that I've been stopped from talking, we can, Jim.
Brandy.
And you've been letting me talk for a few minutes. And then when I say something you guys don't want to hear, that's when you want to cut me off.
Well, no.
But the residents have the residents have a right to speak. And we are in the middle of a workshop that we just finished and let everyone speak that wanted to about the septic. And then we get to a topic that some people maybe just don't want to hear what the residents have to say. So for this half of the workshop, now all of a sudden we might not listen to them. That's just, Brandy, it's just not right.
Brandy, you're being completely inappropriate. I will make sure that everyone gets to speak, and you've known me long enough to know that. Now,
I agree, but I don't think Robert
stop.
should have said that in the meeting.
Because listen, according to protocol, workshops are for council to discuss these things in a free-flowing format because we do not have that ability generally. Whereas residents can always have that ability and always reach out to us to discuss their feelings as they always do. So
But
I
the
don't
residents
take
don't
kindly.
feel that way.
Would you?
Sure.
So I will make sure that everyone gets to add input. I never do that. So we're going to have plenty of input, but let's not ruin a very good plan that we have an opportunity to potentially make even better. And I need to explain to you that while I understand a lot of people said no parking, parking is never a popular thing. It is a reality of the world we live in. And we do have to include it when we do good planning, because good planning includes golf cart parking, bike parking, pedestrian, and vehicle parking. It's just good practice. So let's not get too ridiculous about saying we're not listening to people. We have to plan accordingly. It's the first version of a plan. Let us give some input on it. You've given yours. I hear you. But also, I want to make sure that people understand that if you squeeze parking from here, you're actually going to then put parking in people's front yards on town right away. And that's what we're trying to avoid, because that, I believe, is more important than not having parking here. Now, we'll get additional input and we will find out if that's true or not. But I bet it is. I'm pretty sure, because I've spoken to all those people and they don't like people parking out in front. And that's why we have those signs, because we did that as an accommodation to be respectful to all of those individuals during events. We've trimmed events, and we've made sure that they're less impactful in size and scope and scale. So let's not get on the high horse and say we don't listen to people, because I got to tell you, I don't have a big tolerance for that.
Mayor.
All right.
Real
Jim.
quick, Mayor. Oh, can I speak real quick?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no. So my comments to Joan was when she asked if there's going to be public comment. Typical protocol is these workshops again are for the council to discuss things that they cannot discuss. And we know that they're going to be longer discussions than have to be at town council meetings. But I did leave the opportunity open for town council to open up for public comment. So I'm not trying to discourage public comment. I've talked to Joan several times, and I've talked to everybody that's on this call right now several times. So my comments were not to prohibit public comment, but to make sure that the conversations between the council members and elected officials is constructive, because again, you guys cannot meet without these types of formats.
It did seem to change midstream, and I'm pretty sure that's the impression that Joan got as well. Hence the reason why I think she started to sound a bit frustrated. I mean, when you started off for this round of this part of the agenda, you said, okay, we're going to listen to council. And you never mentioned that the residents would speak after council, which has been the protocol since we started doing Zoom meetings in 2020.
Randy,
So that's why she
Councilman
spoke up and
Davitt
asked,
said,
my opinion, but we can
let
ask
everyone
her.
speak. He asked for it specifically.
Yeah, I requested
Well,
it during my
requested
earlier
it.
comments. I don't know where you think that we are excluding public comment, Brandy.
Well, what I know is that at all the council meetings, Tony, you and some of the other council members keep saying that you don't hear the input from the residents. So I'd rather hear it in the public workshop forum rather than waiting till the night we get to a vote, because we usually do have a pretty good turnout on these workshops.
Brandy, that's why I asked for it tonight.
He asked for it. If you would like to do it differently, you can run for mayor in March. Okay, Mandy.
Thank you, sir. I just want to congratulate all the hard work, Brad and your team. This looks phenomenal. I know that there's going to be some, some tweaks and things that we will do to ensure that residents in town get what we all need and deserve. But I do feel like this is a phenomenal start, and thank you for all your hard work. And that was all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Any additional council input? Thank you. Ms. Foglia, you have the floor.
Oh, okay, so thank you. I just need a couple of answers for clarification. So the red around the perimeter on the south, north, and east side, would we still be able to drive on that, or it's brick now and it's parking?
The red on the plan is the existing brick.
Okay, gotcha. So nothing really changes there. You're just
Nothing really changes except for
great.
the entrance
Okay.
coming out of 6, correct?
Okay. And do we have a timeline for this? About when we would like to see this start, finish, a budget started, or are we, and my next question after that is, are we still planning on rehabbing the town hall and the historic buildings before we delve into any renovations in the square and potentially moving the 9/11 memorial?
Joan,
Is there a timeline?
Joan, from our perspective, this is a concept plan. So for this to move forward, it would still have to go through full design and engineering. So it's not soon, I don't think.
Okay, so we're not at the point that we can even throw a budget at this without getting detailed plan.
Right.
Okay, and then the other thing, Brad, the bathroom on G here, it seems, I've seen some other elevations and designs, and it seems very small in this drawing. It seems like on other plans I've seen, it comes out way over the sidewalk. Am I correct in that, or am I correct in visualizing it being in line with the existing roof line of the town hall as it looks on
This
this?
was the footprint we were given. It may have changed because we
Okay.
did it some time ago, but again, we're just recognizing that that's there and that's being proposed, but yeah.
Okay. And we've thought about, I mean, look at this, you guys, it's kind of, I'm giggling a little bit because there's really only 33 people, 25 participants, which is so apathetic, which I think I'm more frustrated about in this whole concept meeting, which is pretty sad for our town. But I think I've talked about putting, like, what can we do to get rid of all the dirt around the town hall when we do have, and I don't think I got a positive response from anybody about the idea of putting grass anywhere around the town hall. I mean, the feeling I got was it would never grow there because of all the trees, and there would be so many people stomping on it at events that it would be very difficult and costly to maintain. So I just want to throw that out there too. But I do appreciate your time and listening. Thanks.
Thank you. That was one of the things on the plan that we looked at, is trying to maintain a natural forest floor mulch. Could have plantings, ground cover, but defining edges between lawn and under the tree, under the drip line, for a more natural landscape that would not suffer the dieback that a turf would from the shade.
Okay, well, lots to think about here.
Are there different varieties? I know there's some grass that is, lower light, but maybe not as robust. Again, there's always compromise. But there are options to.
Yeah, I mean, you
need different things.
You'll need sprinklers. I'm just thinking the kids running around here will trip over sprinklers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more to think about than just this design, a lot of safety issues. So,
John,
I mean, it's a good start.
Joan,
Yeah.
yes, this is a concept. It's not design.
I
So
got it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, if we get everything kind of in the right spot, that gives us the opportunity to then, hone down on making sure we have the right products, the right, the right diameters and spacing of everything like that. All right, Tony, I think that you got everything answered, or do you have another question?
No, I just have one more question, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Tony.
In area K, in the multipurpose reinforced lawn area, I just want to, just a design consideration. I know this is concept, but as we move forward, I want to make sure that we're choosing a product for the reinforcement that allows for tent placement and erection for future events that we have in that area. Because obviously with Pet Fest and all the other events we have, we do put tents up, and I want to make sure that stakes aren't going to degrade that areas. So for the record, I just want to put that on there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. We could use stakes or sandbags.
Cool.
Sounds good. Thanks, Robert.
Yes, sir.
All right, CT Allen. You're muted, CT.
Right. Okay, here I am. One, I love this plan. I was trying to be as active and as involved with all the workshops, the charrettes. I applaud Joan. She's got a great eye for this concept. I had one more question when she pointed out the red brick area. During the charrette, we all, well, I shouldn't say we all, but a majority of us wanted a no drive zone. I have to admit, when running an event, and I've been loading in and out of Cal Palmer, I've been almost plowed over. I can't tell you how many times people trying just to cut through the traffic to get to the Main Street roundabout. I would love all of that with the ballards to be closed off, except for events like when food trucks come in and things like that, but the ballards can be taken out, but that we definitely close off actually where Brad has got all the red bricks lined off to through traffic. I think that would eliminate a lot of the hassles. And I am going to address the parking. So I was in the charrette. Parking wasn't a main issue because we were so focused on the green space and everything else, but we also were listening to residents, i.e. like Tom Stroop living on Butler. I think that's Butler. The parking I love because that's the buffer that everybody's been asking for. You park along those perimeters, it is a buffer. And I actually like the extra parking. And so anyway, those are my 2 cents. But I think this plan has been very well thought out, and I am liking it very much.
And Brad, real quick, the bollards would be retractable, correct?
Yes, the bollards would be removable, so they'd be in place, not, all the time unless you need to remove them for an event. So yes, they would prevent traffic unless you want to have traffic there.
Thank you, sir.
Like the bollards would be at P and S, right?
It'd be actually S and S.
Oh, S and S. Oh, great. Okay, I'm sorry. Then that's terrific. I would love to eliminate traffic right in front of Town Hall because there's so many great events going on that we don't need any cars going down that path at any given time.
So the other thing about the bollards, I think too, that, and you hate to even have to talk about this, but the additional level of security that can provide to keep someone from driving down. We've seen it before in many places. It's, again, you hate to talk about it here in our little town, but it certainly will allow for control of traffic, but also an additional element of safety as well. Andy Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, Brad, you and your team did an excellent job. This thing looks fantastic. And the biggest part is, because it always comes up, give it every 3-4 years, is we talk about long-range planning, what to do with Town Square. I can think of numerous times in the last 10 years that this has come up. Every time we have the symphony there, every time we have a decent event, we go, what could we make better? And it always has come down to where to put new trees, where to put new lighting, but we've never had a plan to move forward with. So this I think this is the right step of going forward, at least coming up with a conceptual idea of what we want and then tweaking of some of our other needs. The soccer field, the down in K, I know a lot of those residents right there love that, love to see the kids play there. So, keeping those kind of items open, and the tree canopy, it's gonna grow and it's gonna shrink over time just because that's the nature. Um, you know, Jim, I know we were talking about grasses, and Joan, you asked about grasses too. That's always going to be a hard thing. The more trees we have, which is wonderful for the shade, is the less grass we're going to have, and we end up with mud or a lot more
Yeah.
mulch. But that's just that's part of the give and take to have more trees, which is wonderful. But I really do like this concept because I see this as a good plan that we can go, this is a 2-year, this is a 10-year plan, but it gives us actually direction to work towards, so we can do piecemeal this out and take small bites of it if we want to.
Right.
So hats off to everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. And I agree because, having a plan, if it's approved, allows us to make sure that we're going in the right direction when we make small tweaks or changes, or when we're working on the renovation, et cetera, et cetera. So, as we begin to do those things and we have different contractors in town, maybe you then get the opportunity to move the exit to the library parking lot. There's a lot of little things that can happen and some efficiencies. And that's why it's good for us always to have these plans on the book, and also for future councils. It gives them a playbook. And I think that's always been important. We've used that in the past, other councils' playbooks, and it just keeps us on track sometimes. So I appreciate the kind words, Andy. Thank you. Bill Martini.
Hey, thanks everybody for all your hard work on this. It's exciting to see this all in one spot here. Just a couple of comments. I'm concerned about Old Glory and the safety factor, people going around that circle. So maybe we could do matching bollards across the street, or even get those in place, before this even gets rolling. And then I'm all for blocking off the brick pathway or roadway in front of Town Hall with those bollards. Like CT said, I've seen it more than enough to make me uncomfortable about the people cutting through there at a pretty high rate of speed on a regular basis. So that would, of course, eliminate access to the parking spots that are already there, but this might be a good opportunity to make those golf cart only if the bollards are spaced properly. And, we could still utilize those spaces for golf carts. Anyway, that's it. Thanks all for your hard work.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Martini. Greg Anderson, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the effort you put into this. And I was at the Charrette and did the survey, and I do think there's a lot of folks who have a lot of passion about what they want to see. But conceptually, I think you nailed it. And one thing I really appreciate is the continuous and integrated walkways everywhere. I felt for a long time that sometimes I just feel like a dead end, and this really allows me to walk completely around it, go through it, have some nice diversions. And I think you did a great job making this a really pedestrian-friendly zone. And I echo the sentiment about the parking in the front. I'm there 5 days a week, and every time I see people parked on the wrong side of those little parking spaces and impeding the ability for police or fire to get through, I cringe. So I do appreciate that consideration. So thanks, great job, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate the input.
Hi, this is Sarah. Yes,
Hey,
thank
Sarah,
you,
go
Mayor.
ahead.
Hi. Thank you, Brad and Chris, for putting this concept together. I have a question, and something that you mentioned, Brad, was that you also got input on the bathrooms. And I know this is not the conversation in terms of the bathrooms, but depending on what that input was, it may affect some of this concept design or concept plan. What can you share, Brad, what that feedback was?
The feedback from the public input? That's what you're
Yes,
asking?
Yeah, and
Oh,
from
we
the
did.
charrette.
Yes, no, we had feedback and comments, people wanting to have a separate bathroom out here. That was absolutely correct. But what we have to do as the designer working on here is what did we think? And when I say we, I really mean Chris, because he's the designer. Is what works the best with the site and the overall layout. And as Chris presented earlier, when he was talking about the concept plan, we truly fully believe that the bathroom at the town hall does provide the appropriate service to this overall town square area because it is centrally located. It's not a far walk from one to get there from any point within this park, in this area. So we, as the designer, yes, we're aware of the comments and the interest that was provided, but we felt that there wasn't a need to put another bathroom out here where you have one at town hall. And I mean, you have the bathrooms at the library as well. So
I was thinking, because I thought the feedback at the time, and I may be wrong, Brett, so this is why I'm asking. I thought the feedback was to put the bathrooms right by where the corner of J is or by the library. So I know that's a hot topic. Also, for some reason, I also seem to have remembered that when it came to parking, the people who were at the, at the charade, we had recommended doing the golf cart parking where 12 and J and T is. So all that area to encourage the residents rather than parking, and to also keeping the residents in mind for them to drive the golf carts, because it's what a lot of our residents do rather than driving the cars. So I'm not sure if these are actual full-size parking lots or parking spaces, or are any of these golf cart spaces?
Those are currently the existing spaces that fit a regular vehicle. So the only real new spaces that are added are just over on the sort of bottom right, below Q, below the crosswalk on 6, down to Forest.
But what I would say, Sarah, and as the mayor said, if this moves forward and as it gets to design, that could be an adjustment that could be made to designate some of that parking as golf cart parking as this further gets designed out and detailed. So this doesn't prohibit or prevent that happening in final design, but that opportunity will still be there.
Sounds good. And just to Joan's point, I think, yes, the G where the bathroom is, it would actually overflow a little bit. So I think if we take the feedback into consideration, I'm not sure if there's going to be more discussion, as that discussion would actually affect the design on the possibility of changing the bathroom location based on the residents' input. But I just wanted to check with you. But Brad, thank you very much. And thank you, Chris, for putting this together.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Hey, Brad.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I might be able to answer Sarah's question. She had a question about your concepts from the charrettes, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was just looking at my notes, and the number one project, or the sketch that you had up there, did have the bathroom next to the library with 10 votes out of 33. And then the number 2, which had it in the G spot, had 9 votes out of 33, and then it tapered off fairly quickly. And those are the 2 front runners out of the 4 concepts I think you'd brought to the charrettes or had put together during the charrettes. So hopefully that answered your question, Sarah.
Thank you. So if I understand correctly, you're saying that in location by the library was 10 or 11, and then by G 10. So the difference is 1 vote. And then what happened to the ones that was by J? Because I thought that was also in part. So if you add the ones that wanted in the corner by J, plus the ones that were in L, and you add those together,
when I
Was
looked through
there a big difference in terms of G? Because I think it would be just adding those votes to see. Yeah, go ahead. How many people actually
No,
wanted
I'm
it
sorry,
in?
Sarah. Sarah, probably the best thing is we've got a full list of what came out of the charrettes. I'm just repeating what I read earlier, the last couple of days when I was looking through it, because I only saw the 5 concepts. So, and it was done by how many were voted. The top 2 did have it at the end of the library, and also where Brad has it set now. So, but that's, one vote when you're talking about a room of 30 people. So it's pretty tight no matter which way you look at it.
I think too, one of the important things is if we look at this plan, you can see on the right-hand side, these are pretty much all fixed structures and things that, we don't have a lot of room to adjust or tweak. But when you look at the left-hand side of the plan, you have pretty much what's, hard / softscape, but there's no buildings there. So for example, if 10 years from now, our children are running the town and they want to do something different, it leaves them the ability to shape the town for the next generation as well. So, there's a lot of little things that go into this that, give not only today's residents, a vote and a choice, but tomorrow's residents a vote and a choice. And that's part of what we want to do here and accomplish. And it also leaves a large amount of, passive green type space that could be tweaked and changed in the future should that be the way that residents want to go, long past us, right? So it's all about leaving a legacy and leaving those guys the opportunity to put their stamp on town as well. So any additional questions for the presenters or for council? All right. Seeing none, I want to thank everybody for their input. Please make sure that if you have additional input and you want to share that with your favorite council person, please do that and go ahead and make sure that input is heard. And we'll also have further future conversation at town council as well. So I think with that, we will adjourn our meeting tonight at 7:42 p.m. And I want to thank everybody again for attending and providing input. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.